Hey everyone, this is Sally with the Polka Dot Life. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to spend it with me. I want to talk to you about the Trimming the Town suite. It is a fun and whimsical whole suite of products. It's really a joy to work with, but there's something behind this, particularly this stamp set, that is near and dear to my heart. This is part of our Making a Difference campaign, and a portion of the proceeds for every stamp set sold will benefit charities that deal with infertility, with foster care, and with adoption. Each three of those things have impacted my family personally, and I am so thankful that there are charities that help the children out and couples and families that are all going through this time. You will love working with this stamp set. It has so many fun images to play with. Come on over to the craft desk and let's get started. Trimming the Town is the suite of products that I will be using today. I wanted to start by showing you these great designer series paper and remind you that the sale for those papers continues until October 31st, and there are several different patterns that you can choose from. There are 12 sheets, 2 of each design. These first couple ones make great background papers, all year paper. Wouldn't these be great? Something maybe to do with going to see that famous mouse or something. But I love this one. This is another great one. It features the town, or the little homes in the town, but they're not as large a scale as in the stamp set or in some of these other papers. And then there's this blue snowy paper that's really great for a lot of different cards. Don't limit yourself to just using these papers with this particular suite. Feel free to mix and match no matter what you want to achieve. I love this paper. It's just people handing gifts, standing posing for photos, delivering gifts, children and a parent, just all kind of things. And I love that multiple ethnicities are represented in this paper. And this is a great old olive stripe paper. This would be great for all kinds of different cards. These next three are powerhouse pieces. They do a lot of the work for us. So these, each one, have different languages and they're different Christmas greetings. And you can cut those out on your trimmer. I know it looks really intimidating, but it isn't bad at all. You just would simply line up one of these lines on your trimmer right in that gutter where that cutting blade goes, and you can just zip right across there. They're like 1/4 of an inch. Of course, you could always just take your paper snips and just cut them by hand. That would be perfectly acceptable as well. This is also another background print. I love that Stampin' Up! Just gives us great prints on both sides. This one takes me back to my scrapbooking days for sure. Wouldn't this just be a great part of your scrapbook layout? You can also cut it apart and use different scenes for your card fronts as well. And they would be pretty much standalone as they are. This is another fun background print, totally all year round. It's just scribbles and it's Poppy Parade. And I love that this suite uses the Poppy Parade. This one, let's start by showing you the back. It's a really great Misty Moonlight stripe. And so that, of course, would be great for masculine cards, nautical cards, anything like that. If you do not like to color, they've given you an out as well. The dies with this suite, simply, and there are several dies. I don't have all of them out here, but look, you could just cut them apart so you could get them through your machine. And even these little Christmas trees. There are dies for those. The large one as well. This little house also. So a lot of fun options here. So if you didn't have time to cut images out or to color images, because they do take a while, even though I really enjoy it, some people do not, or some people just might not have the time to throw a card together and do that, especially the closer that we get to the holidays. I also wanted to remind you that these are not simply just for the holidays. These cards could go through all winter and it would be perfectly fine. In fact, I'll show you a card like that later on. We have a lot of pieces and parts. We're going to be doing a fun fold card today, and I've done some gluing and so on just to try to save some time on our video. But I want to start with our card base, and that is cut at 4 1/4 by 11, but you'll have all these measurements and there'll be a lot of measurements. So you want to hop over, follow that link down below in the description box and hop on over to my blog to get all of these card measurements. And we are going to simply score this at 5 1/2, just like if you were going to make any other card. Then we are going to take this other piece. We're going to bring this piece up here, and along this long edge, we are going to score at 2 3/4. And I know that my board is not the Stampin' Up one. It's one I've had for years, but it still works great. But Stampin' Up does offer one like this, or you can use the scoring tool on your Stampin' trimmer. So we have 2 3/4, 5 1/2, and 8 1/4. And that's it for our scoring. Let's bring our cardstock, our card base over here, and let's get it scored. That's always a good place to start. And we're just going to push everything down towards this crease and give it a good crease on both sides. This is a landscape type card. It is actually a fun fold, and it's called a W card. We're going to bring in this piece, and we are going to fold, and you want to make sure really on this piece that these are straight, that your edges are together, because it would show if they were not. And so we're going to want to bring this piece down here. Once you see, you fold it in half, and then you essentially just fold these other pieces in halfway as well. They're just in opposite directions. Okay. And with any fun fold, you just want to make sure everything is burnished and happy. Let's bring our tear and tape in, because this is going to take a little bit of abuse by opening and closing. We want it to hold up really well. And if you see, it's kind of, as it's facing me, it looks like an M versus a W. So we just want to open it up, and we'll have those first two ends that are going to go closest to our card base facing up. And we are simply going to put a piece of tape here and a piece of tape here, the tear and tape. And then we're going to flip it over. I love this tear and tape. It comes in such a large roll. It will last you quite a while. Even as much as I use it, it still lasts for a good long time. And I am simply going to just start and take pieces off of here And we're just going to center them in here. And I know I did not show you the card again because this one might really scare you off, and it's really not difficult to make at all. It's just layers, and it's just more cutting, that kind of thing. It's not really anything difficult to put together, but I wanted to put together one with you today, and it's a little bit different than my example, so that is why another reason why I didn't show you mine at first. It's very similar, but I will point out the differences here in a little bit. And these don't have to be measured to be in the center, but you wouldn't want to take a piece of tape the whole way across there because some of that misty moonlight is still going to show. All right, we're going to keep the covers on these ones, and we're going to put these aside for just a second. That strip aside. We're going to bring in, we have 2 pieces of Whisper White cardstock that we are simply going to adhere down. And we don't need to put a whole lot of this Tombow on, but simply around the edges would be great. You just want to have that little sliding factor. And this is just simply our normal, what we would do for an inside layer. It just goes on both sides here. It's 1/4 of an inch difference around. And there we go. That inner. I'm just going to pick it up here out of view for a minute to make sure things look straight. I think we're good. And it's kind of hard. The camera is overhead, and I sit to stamp. Some people like to stand, but I usually remain seated. I feel like I do better that way. But it does make it so that I cannot see the camera. We're going to simply take, this is our part that just has it on the 2 ends, and I'm going to remove this release tape. And I am going to, it doesn't need to be exact, but it does need to be close. I just need to remember, do I go clear? I want to make sure I tell you the right thing. Okay, it is going to go clear to this edge of this misty moonlight. And we are going to press that down. And we're going to just accordion that back together and release this other side of the tape as well. And the best way to line this up is to just keep that shut and then close your card. And just give it a nice little rub. And see, we want this inner side popping out, coming towards you. And so that is that portion. I want to go ahead and work on the panels of the inside of our card. We have lots of little parts and pieces. We will have 4 panels of Misty Moonlight. And then I chose to do a little variegated theme here on the inside. And we're going to just go ahead and get all these things laid out before we start gluing things to make sure everything works out the way that we want it to. Because if you expose that tear and tape and then you accidentally bump it and your card closes or something, then you would not be very happy. Okay, that is great. I'm just going to bring in this little piece of grid paper. Since I had done all our stamping and coloring ahead of time, we don't have much stamping to do, but just this little bit. I thought this panel just needed a little something to make it stand out. And so we're going to take our Pool Party ink, and at this top, we're just going to start, and you can make this as close together or as far apart as you'd like. I kind of like the edges a little more filled in, and then a little more random in the centers. And then I even do some second and third generation stamping as well. And that just kind of fills in those white spots without it being super in your face, if that makes any sense. All right, and I think that's down far enough. And then I'm just going to start with this one. And I am making sure that this is in frame. And I'm just going to adhere this down to one of those Misty Moonlight panels. And we're going to just go ahead, we might as well go ahead and layer our images up onto that. On this particular piece, we are going to put our little red car, and you'll see that these definitely, with the alcohol markers, bleed through. So we definitely want to make sure that we use our Whisper White thick cardstock. And you want to make sure that you protect your surface underneath. And my poor trees look a little frazzled. My old olive alcohol marker is biting the dust. I have used and used that one so many times. And so I finally just had to put in an order to get a new one. So that's going to be one of our panels. Let's bring this lovely red and white, or sorry, it's Poppy Parade and white polka dots. And of course, you know, here at the Polka Dot Life, we love all things polka dot. And we're just simply, whoa. I will clean that little bit of adhesive off. Take a skim of it with my nail, but then I'm going to let it just kind of sit like that, and I will clean that up with a gum eraser and it'll be fine. On my example, you'll see that I popped up several things, and it's a rather thick card, and so for this version, we are just simply going to adhere these down. Just single, straight on, one cardstock layer to the next. Let's slide that over to not where it's hanging off that Misty Moonlight, but just a little bit extra. And since both of those are green, I want to take my Wink of Stella, and it shouldn't be bothered by that Memento Black, but I'm going to be real careful not to get into it. And sometimes, not usually with the alcohol markers, if you use the inks, they will smear. But I just wanted to go ahead and just give that a little layer of sparkle with our Wink of Stella tool. And we'll just slide that one over here. And this next one, I just kind of envision that our driver of our red car is taking their trusty holiday cargo to this house. There's even a stamp in the stamp set. If I wanted to, I could have absolutely put some smoke coming out of the chimney, but these panels just aren't quite large enough for that. And then our last panel, again, features that Poppy Parade polka dot print. It is just so hard sometimes to choose which side of our designer series paper to use. There we go. And I stamped on mine, but I think that I would just rather glue this down, is what I decided to do. But it has to be a little bit higher so it comes out over the roof of our home. I just love everything that this suite stands for, and with every one of the stamp sets sold, a portion of the proceeds goes towards charities that help with infertility, foster care, and adoption. And like I said in my opening, my life has been affected by all three of these things. And I just think it's so great that if we can do a little bit of something to help out, that we can. So there is that layer as well. Let's go ahead and bring this one back in. I forgot that I do have one of those little sentiments. Let's see. I think I would like to use this one. And these are really, really tiny, so they don't take but just a little smidge of this Tombow. And we'll just put this just part way down. It can be to the side, it can be centered, it can be however you would like it to be. Great. I think I'll go ahead and just now let's bring back in our card base, and we'll just simply start and put our panels down. You can have the choice. You can either have them go straight, which is kind of how I just decided to do mine that way, but you could absolutely stagger them where one goes up and one goes down. Lots of different variations, and this works with all kinds of designer series paper. So we're just going to center this as we see fit. And I probably am just not going to press down on that right now. It definitely would still stick, but I could have a prayer of removing it and moving it again if I needed it to be. With this, tear and tape is one of our strongest adhesives. Just kind of get a good idea of where those bottoms line up. And I actually changed up my panels a little bit for this card just because I could. I just made this one a little bit differently. Sometimes I don't like to make things the same way twice. I like to experiment and see what we're doing. And on to putting our last panel on. And they're close enough together that if you kind of, like I say, just put your fingers there and get the feel for making them straight. Of course, this one you can line it up over here is what I would suggest, making sure that that is straight. But then that makes the magic happen when we open our card and it can sit like that. Isn't that super cute? You could, before you put this down, if you had a small greeting, you could put it here. I would recommend that you would stamp it and adjust this as you needed to. I chose not to put one down just so that it would give me somewhere to write. Because this one, if you don't like to write, this is a great card for you. Let's hop this back out of the way again. And let's build our front panel. This is a fun little thing you can do. This is one of each of the three houses, and then I simply just kind of layered them, put this one on top of the big one and this one in the center, and it just makes a larger home. And I popped up a wreath here on this round window, and I did color that in with some Wink of Stella. But we'll simply just adhere these layers together. And we'll put our pretty Misty Moonlight Designer Series paper layer onto our Poppy Parade. And not just quite straight here. All right. And then we will bring our card base back in. And there are all sorts of things you could do. You could pop different things up. For this one, I chose to leave it flat for mailing purposes. My other example, I think, would be more of something you might hand to somebody, or we have some different ways that you can package it for the mail. Well, in getting a hold on this, you just have to open it up so that you're not trying to fight those inside layers of our pretty card. And we're just going to, you can see how this is just those three homes that we stamped out of our Whisper White cardstock and colored them in. But we just will catch all those little nooks and crannies that might pop up and hang up on something. And I simply just want to put this in the center-ish. I think that looks great. And there are just all kinds of things you could do for the front of this card. If you didn't want to cut out as a design, you could cut out one of the scenes out of this designer series paper and put on there. I'm going to take this tree and just give it a little tiny bit of a bend. And I have my mini dimensionals, just because that is what I grabbed, and I think they work best on here anyway. And it just takes two. Since we already have our wreath popped up, I figure we might as well pop this up too. And I'm just going to kind of put that to anchor the corner of that house. And I think I want to put this little greeting down here at the bottom. In the Poppy Parade. And it's just, again, one of those cute little greetings. Boy, I am just all a mess with this glue today. Let me clean this up. There we go. But I just think that is a super, super cute fun fold card. It would certainly give somebody a little bit of a wow factor when they opened it. And I, again, am going to just take this Wink of Stella, since we've done it to the other tree and we did it to our wreath. We'll just brush a little sparkle, just like it's a little frosty outside on our tree. So there we are. How fun is that? For this card, I simply stamped a greeting here. This stamp set does not come with greetings, so you can put whatever greetings in that you want. And I used some of that designer series paper on the flap, and then just did this cute little fun fold card, and it just opens and closes. And this is our Misty Moonlight in color ribbon, and I have our car, and I just used my blend to make a little piece of a road there, just so it looked like it was a little anchored in something. And I think that is a really sweet version. I wanted to show you this particular one. It uses some of those other prints in our designer series paper that make this something that you could use all year round. You could simply swap out this heartfelt Christmas greeting for a happy birthday, and you have a nice, either a masculine card, or for anyone, man or woman, who enjoys the out of doors that has a winter birthday. And I just simply did the same thing, the DSP on the back, and colored in a tree on the front. And then I just added a greeting and a tree on the inside. And this is from the Ornate Gardens Suite. This is the old olive. I just didn't want to use the gold ribbon with this particular card. And I used some of these little dots that go with the suite. Let me bring in the card that I made. And I apologize if my light glares onto that. I wanted to show you, these are our acrylic boxes, where a lot of times I will make a set of about 4 to 5 cards, depending on how thick they are, and put in here with envelopes as a gift to someone. And then I put either a belly band or a ribbon or something. But if we have a very thick card, which this one is, then you can put it in this for protection in the mail and then mail it in one of those padded bubble envelope mailers. But I'll show you this one. And I think it's just a super fun one as well. It's very similar. I did use a couple other things. Okay, we have our Dashing Through the Snow, and it almost blends right into that. That's how closely that paper, that ink matches. I love that our cardstock matches our designer series paper, matches our markers, matches our everything, our ribbons, embellishments. I love that. I used this, I guess we'll start here. I used the dies that come with it that make a little curve. I did these in the shimmer white cardstock, and I painted these with our shimmer white paint. And before I put this layer down, I used our Poppy Parade ribbon and ran it underneath here before I glued it down and tucked those ends back there. I made a triple bow. And this die it would have had white trees like this and white trees like this, but I cut out these and glued on top of those white trees. And I popped up our wreath on the home. I put some of our embellishments on this as well. And I don't know if that shimmery look comes through of frost and snow, but it's really, really pretty. And I did these super similar, except I guess I switched these two homes on this one. I did not pop up any wreaths or the tree because that's what's adding. See, those wreaths are hitting and it's all coming together there. And that's what's making it super thick. And that's why I thought it might fit in a regular envelope. It might not. But I just thought that this was such a sweet, sweet stamp set and a whole suite of products. And of course, the personal story and the personal cause for it just warms my heart. What a particularly sweet time, especially during the holidays, that just welcoming somebody new into your family can be. It's much like just how Christ adopts us into his family. It's just a super sweet and tender time. And I just hope that this upcoming season will be just so sweet and heartwarming for your family. As always, remember to be kind, send a card, and do something creative. Bye-bye.